Now, how peaceful and orderly was today's barangay elections? Was there any violence, and was there any attempt by any candidates to buy votes? Now, how did the Commission on Elections manage the conduct of the elections? Joining us tonight on NewsLife is Attorney James Jimenez, spokesperson of the Commission on Elections. Good evening, sir, and welcome to NewsLife.
Good evening.
Sir, just to start us off, was it generally peaceful and orderly, today's elections?
Yeah, pretty much. We didn't see any scale problems in terms of peace and security. And in fact, the few instances where we had rogue people coming in and trying to disrupt the elections, those were quickly subdued and the situation immediately brought under control. So in general, yes, it was very peaceful.
What were the usual problems that were encountered by our voters? There was some saying their names weren't there. There were in some areas no COMELEC officials were there.
Well, the most common really in every election is people complaining about not finding their names on the list. But that can be attributed to a lot of things. For instance, in today's elections, we saw a lot of people carrying lists of voters that were actually generated by their barangays. Obviously, that was not going to match with the official lists. And in some cases, we had people insisting that they were supposed to be able to vote when in fact they had been deactivated. Of course, there were also some that had really missing names, but those were immediately addressed by the help desks, which were maintained by the PPCRV, our accredited citizens arm. So all in all, it was everything was handled very well.
So now looking back at the campaign, was there less violence compared to a regular election?
Well, as far as the campaign was concerned, and historically anyway, since this is the barangay elections, we saw more violent incidents compared to the midterm elections, compared to other elections in the past. But that's because, like I said, we always attribute that to the fact that it's a barangay elections, and barangay elections are historically more closely fought and with greater tension in the local communities.
Now, was the gun ban effective? And all in all, sir, how many casualties were recorded?
Well, I think the gun ban was effective. The PNP has been reporting something like almost 600 arrests and several thousand firearms confiscated. I guess you could look at it, and say that if these firearms hadn't been confiscated, then the problems might have been greater than we actually experienced. As far as the casualties are concerned, we tallied about 61 casualties as of late this afternoon. So although, like I always say, even just one death is too much, having the figures that low make this a generally peaceful election.
So looking at lessons learned during these elections today and even during the midterm elections, now how can we improve now that we're coming up to the presidential elections in 2016?
Well, perhaps the biggest area for improvement is will always be with regard to the compliance of candidates with the election campaign. Right now, what we're seeing is an increase in the number of citizen reports telling us about instances of vote buying, instances of overspending, and we're able to act more quickly on these reports than we were able to in the past. In the May elections just finished, we saw that immediately after the elections, we were able to disqualify at least 3 high-ranking officials, and that was on the strength of citizen reports. That was unheard of at the time. And now, with the barangay elections, we have a lot of citizen reports that we're processing now, and we expect that will even better our hit rate in terms of disqualifying erring candidates.
So now, going back, you were mentioning about overspending. Was there more seen here during the barangay election?
Without the figures from the campaigns themselves, being that the elections are just finished, it still feels as though these candidates overspent. You have to understand that the candidates are allowed to spend only 5 pesos per voter. And when you're looking at the size of the barangays, that means a very small amount. And yet, you see them day in, day out, running through the streets with their motorcades, giving out t-shirts, and those things cost money. So the sense of it all is that we feel that they have overspent. The trick now is to go out and prove it. And for that, we're being helped also by the citizens who are sending their reports into us, their documentation, and hopefully, when the time comes, they'll be willing to stand witness to their charges as well.
So again, going back to overspending, a while ago, a case was being filed against Laguna Governor Ejercito.
Yes.
What's the progress of that case right now?
Well,
are there others being filed?
As far as the case of Governor Ejercito is concerned, they have already filed a motion for reconsideration. and that's pending with the COMELEC on bank now. But because of the elections, that has been put on the back burner. The chairman has assured us that after the elections have been sorted out, the barangay elections have been sorted out, we will go back to prosecuting that particular case with utmost speed. We want to be able to finish this case very early because we want the decision to be significant in the sense that, you know, it's something that the politicians feel. One of the problems of COMELEC is that when you dismiss or disqualify someone with only 2 weeks to go before the term expires anyway, it creates the belief in the candidate, I can do anything I want because I can delay the progress of my case as far as that. But if we can show them that these cases can be dispatched with and ended with finality early on, then they will probably think twice about violating the law.
Is that being remedied right now? Is
Yeah.
that the case right now?
Yeah, we're moving very fast on this one. Again, taking into consideration that the elections were concluded in May, we came out with a decision about 2 months ago, so that's pretty quick. There are other cases being studied right now, and some of them are up for resolution. But again, we pretty much deprioritize them in favor of the barangay elections. But now that the barangay elections are over, we will get back to those cases.
So now we tackled overspending. Did you also see any cases of vote buying or even snatching of ballots during today's election?
Yes, there were incidents of ballot snatching. But what we did there was that we immediately authorized the use of provisional ballots, which meant that basically the ballot snatching was a useless exercise for them because we're not going to use those ballots anymore anyway. As far as vote buying is concerned, yes, I think the PNP, they caught several people red-handed, and cases are being readied against them. Again, this is something that has happened before. We haven't actually had the opportunity to file cases this close to the elections at any time in our country's electoral history.
Sir, during these barangay elections, it's not automated. Are there moves to actually make it automated in the future?
Well, our goal ultimately is to automate all elections in the country. The problem here is timing. When you automate an elections, the law says that the system has to be certified with every election. Now, certification is a process that takes about 6 to 8 months. If you're going to automate the barangay elections in October, then the 6 to 8 month certification period falls squarely within the time that you are using that exact same system for a different elections. So it's become very, very difficult to get the necessary certification. But we're trying to remedy that in the future, and some of the moves that have been proposed include synchronizing the barangay elections with the national and local elections. Of course, that move carries with it its own set of challenges, but it's a way out of this problem.
So now how long will the canvas of results take? Can it be done overnight?
Well, for the most part, there are a lot of single precinct barangays, and those will have been completed by now. We expect a majority of the proclamations to be done by the end of the day, about midnight. And some of the bigger barangays will probably be having their proclamation sometime early tomorrow.
And final word, sir, any lessons learned that we may use in the future elections?
I don't know about lessons learned, but a bit of good news, I think, for the public. The liquor ban will end in about 2 hours. So that's something to look forward to if you're not too tired to celebrate that.
Okay, on that note, thank you very much for joining us here tonight at NewsLife. That was Attorney James Jimenez, spokesperson of the Commission on Elections. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.